Countess Elizabeth Bathory remains a polarizing figure in history, famously accused of torturing and murdering hundreds of young women in the early 17th century. These sources provide a multifaceted look at her life, documenting the legal proceedings led by Georg Thurzo and the thousands of witness testimonies that contributed to her lifelong imprisonment. While her reputation as the quote-unquote Blood Countess has inspired dark legends and literary monsters like Dracula, modern researchers examine her private letters to reveal a highly educated, competent estate manager who navigated a volatile political landscape. Some scholars and skeptics propose that the allegations may have been politically motivated slanders, or even a witch hunt designed by the Habsburgs to seize her family's vast wealth. This tension between the sadistic monster portrayed in folklore and the potentially wronged noble woman is explored through historical essays, archival FAQs, and even contemporary theatrical performances. Ultimately, the collection highlights the difficulty of separating historical fact from sensationalized myth 4 centuries after her death. Historical analysis of Elizabeth Bathory reveals a stark divide between the gruesome folklore that brands her as a vampiric blood countess and the documented evidence from her 1610 investigation, which some scholars suggest points to a political or gender-based conspiracy. The case against Bathory is primarily built upon a massive volume of witness testimony and the findings of a secret investigation led by Palatine Georg Thurzo. Between 1610 and 1611, investigators collected approximately 300 witness statements. While much of this was hearsay, dozens of individuals provided first-hand accounts of extreme cruelty. Witnesses described victims being beaten, burned with hot irons, stabbed with needles under the fingernails, and left naked to freeze to death in the snow. Thurzo reported that when he raided Choctawset Castle on December 29, 1610, he caught Bathory, quote-unquote, red-handed. He allegedly claimed to find one girl recently beaten to death, another dying from severe wounds, and several others imprisoned in the dungeons. 4 of Bathory's servants confessed to assisting in dozens of murders. They provided graphic details of the torture methods used. While the exact number of victims is debated, the highest cited figure is 650, coming from a second-hand account of a register Bathory allegedly kept. Officially, she and her cohorts were convicted of 80 counts of murder. Contemporary researchers have identified significant flaws in the 17th century proceedings and the later development of the Bathory myths. The most famous aspect of the legend, that she bathed in virginal blood to retain youth, is unsupported by any contemporary evidence. This detail first appeared in print in 1729, over a century after her death, in Tragica Historica, and is widely considered a later invention. King Matthias II owed Bathory and her late husband a massive financial debt, which would not need to be repaid if she was found guilty of a capital crime. Additionally, the Habsburg crown viewed the powerful Bathory family as a political threat, especially given her support for her nephew Gabor Bathory, the Prince of Transylvania. The testimony against her is highly suspect by modern standards. More than 250 of the 300 witness statements were hearsay and provided no specific information or evidence. Crucially, the confessions of her servants were extracted under extreme torture, rendering their reliability questionable. Despite being a noblewoman entitled to a formal trial under the Hungarian legal code, Bathory was never allowed to testify or present a defense. She was placed under permanent house arrest until her death. Some revisionist theories suggest that Bathory was not a murderer, but a victim of her era's societal shifts. Revisionist scholars argue that Bathory was actually a skilled healer, Under this theory, the quote-unquote tortures described by witnesses were actually misinterpreted medical procedures, such as bloodletting, surgery, or heat treatments for illness. However, this is challenged by her own letters, which discuss mundane estate management but never the purchase of medical supplies. Some historians conclude that there was no gender-based conspiracy because the 17th century Hungary generally accepted wealthy widows. However, her specific power and refusal to cede wealth to male heirs may have made her an inconvenient figure for the Habsburg establishment. A radical theory proposes that Bathory ran an academy for young women to read and study Reformation ideas, and that reports of quote-unquote coffins leaving the castle were actually used to smuggle forbidden books rather than dispose of bodies. Historical truth regarding Elizabeth Bathory remains elusive because her narrative is a patchwork of research, while accuracy is often replaced by biased storytelling. While her status as a prolific killer is supported by volume, her status as a victim of a show trial is supported by the procedural irregularities and obvious political gains of her accusers. The history of Elizabeth Bathory is like an ancient castle that has been renovated so many times that it is hard to tell where the original stone ends and the newer additions begin. The 1610 investigation is the foundation of original stone, solid but weathered and perhaps shifted by the weight of the building. The blood-bathing legends and the vampiric tales are the Renaissance and Gothic facades added centuries later. Vivid and terrifying, but not part of the structure's original design. Historical evidence suggests that the accusations against Elizabeth Bathory may have been heavily influenced by a combination of financial debt, geopolitical rivalries, and religious tensions aimed at dismantling the power of the Bathory family. One of the primary theories regarding a political conspiracy centers on the significant financial debt the crown owed to the Bathory and Nadasdy family. King Matthias II owed Elizabeth a massive debt inherited from her husband, Ferenc Nadasdy military's expenses during the Long War against the Turks. Historical laws of the era dictated that if a noble were found guilty of capital crimes, the property could be forfeit to the crown and their debts cancelled. Elizabeth was one of the wealthiest landowners in Hungary, controlling a vast network of strategically important castles. Some scholars argue that the Habsburgs and local rivals, such as Palatine Georg Thurzo, stood to benefit from her downfall by potentially seizing these territories or weakening her family's regional dominance. The Bathory family represented a major political threat to the stability of the Habsburg Empire. Elizabeth's nephew, Gabor Bathory, was the Prince of Transylvania and a direct rival to King Matthias II. Gabor desired the Hungarian throne and led movements of Transylvanian independence backed by the Ottomans. Elizabeth's vast land holdings included fortresses that could have provided a safe passage for Gabor's Transylvanian army to invade Habsburg-controlled Hungary or reach Poland. Discrediting or neutralizing Elizabeth was an effective way to remove a wealthy and strategically positioned ally of a crown rival. Also, the investigation took place during a period of intense religious and social upheaval. The Habsburgs were staunchly Catholic and leading the Counter-Reformation, while Elizabeth was a Calvinist Protestant. While the lead investigator, Thurzo, was a Lutheran, the broader political environment favored discrediting powerful Protestant families. As a wealthy widow who efficiently managed her own estates and refused to cede control to male heirs, Elizabeth, quote-unquote, ruffled the feathers of the men who ruled Hungary. Some revisionist theories suggest she was a victim of a gender-based conspiracy, as powerful, independent women were often viewed as a threat to the established patriarchal social order. Political motivations in the 17th century Hungary acted like a vice grip. While Elizabeth's alleged crimes provided the handle, The crown's debt and the threat of her family's power provided the pressure necessary to lock her away forever without a day in court. Elizabeth was never formally tried, primarily due to a secret agreement brokered between Palatine Georg Thurzo and her powerful male relatives, including her son Paul and her sons-in-law. This arrangement allowed Thurzo to confine her without a public trial, therefore protecting the prestige and honor of the Bathory and Nadesty names from irreparable disgrace. Her relatives explicitly thanked Thurzo for choosing this lesser of two evils to shield the family from the public shame of judicial torture and execution. A formal conviction of capital crimes would have carried dire economic consequences, as Hungarian law dictated that noble property could be forfeited to the crown upon a guilty verdict. By avoiding a trial, the family ensured that Elizabeth's vast landholdings and strategic fortresses remained under their control rather than being seized by King Matthias II. Elizabeth herself facilitated this by writing a will in 1610 that distributed her estates among her children, effectively ensuring the royal treasury would not benefit from her situation. Geopolitical stability also played a critical role in the decision to forego a trial, as the Bathory family held immense power in a volatile region. Elizabeth's nephew, Gabor Bathory, was the Prince of Transylvania and a direct rival to King Matthias II. A public scandal of this magnitude threatened to trigger a regional civil war or destabilize the relationship between the Protestant nobility and the Catholic Habsburg crown. Thurzo successfully convinced the king that a public trial and execution would damage the reputation of the entire nobility, which was already strained by religious and political conflicts. Furthermore, while the Hungarian legal code provided certain protection for nobles, confinement acted as a way to neutralize her social and political existence without the legal complications of a public proceeding. Thurzo was also reportedly aware of the fragility of the evidence, much of which consisted of hearsay or confessions from servants that were extracted under extreme torture. By placing her under permanent house arrest in Choctysech Castle, the authorities achieved her removal from power while avoiding a courtroom battle that could have been contested or politically disastrous. Avoiding a trial for Elizabeth Bathory was similar to a powerful modern corporation reaching a quiet, out-of-court settlement to resolve a massive internal scandal. Rather than going to a public court where a judge might bankrupt the company or seize its assets, the leader agreed to lock the offending executive away in private, sacrificing her freedom to ensure the company name and its wealth survived intact. Revisionist theories regarding Elizabeth Bathory's quote-unquote finishing school, traditionally known as the Gymnasium, refamed the institution as either a medical academy, a radical center for Reformation-era education, or a hub for religious subversion. While the 1610 investigation alleged the school was a killing field where the daughters of the lesser gentry were lured to their deaths, contemporary researchers offer the following alternative methods. As a medical and anatomical academy, one prominent revisionist theory suggests that Elizabeth's primary passion was healing. Under this framework, the Gymnasium functioned as a training ground for medical care. Each noblewoman residing at the castle was allegedly required to learn the basics of anatomy and simple healing techniques. Revisionists argue that witness descriptions of quote-unquote torture actually corresponded to standard 17th century medical instructions for treating specific diseases. For example, the use of hot irons or burning may have been the coloration of wounds or the removal of infected tissue like boils and abscesses. Deaths at the school are attributed not to murder but to documented local epidemics of plague and typhus. A more recent theory proposed by Dr. Anouchka Bailey from the University of Cambridge suggests that the Gymnasium was a place of clandestine intellectual activity. The school was allegedly a place where young women were taught to read and were exposed to radical religious ideas flowing out of Reformation Europe. Bailey posits that Bathory may have been teaching and distributing the highly controversial proto-Unitarian writings of the Spanish scholar Michael Servetus, whose books were targeted for destruction during the Counter-Reformation. This theory is supported by evidence that Bathory had access to a printing press at Savara and used the network of tunnels at Choctawsach to facilitate her work. Beyond the radical theories, some revisionists emphasize that the school functioned as a legitimate vocational academy for estate management and social etiquette. As a competent and micromanaging administrator herself, Elizabeth likely trained young noblewomen in the literacy and calculation skills required to oversee vast feudal holdings. For the lesser gentry, sending a daughter to Bathory's court was a way to increase their social status and learn the courtly etiquette expected at locations like the Viennese court. In the traditional narrative, the gymnasium is like a predatory trap, a spider's web designed to lure and consume victims. But in revisionist theories, however, it is reimagined as a secret laboratory or a clandestine press, a place of hidden, potentially dangerous knowledge that the ruling establishment felt the need to brand as monstrous in order to destroy it. Comparing Elizabeth Bathory's case between the 17th century and modern time reveals a shift from a calculated political and legal maneuver to a globalized supernatural legend and a lens for contemporary gender politics. In her own time, Bathory's case was defined by legal pragmatism and political preservation rather than the supernatural horror associated with her today. The 17th century Hungarian judicial system relied almost exclusively on oral testimony, rather than written records or physical forensic evidence. While modern observers find the lack of hard proof suspicious, the words of living witnesses were then considered far more authoritative than, quote-unquote, the skin of a dead animal, or parchment. The decision to forego a formal trial was a deliberate choice to protect the prestige of the Hungarian nobility. Had she been tried and executed, her properties would likely have been forfeited to the royal treasury, cancelling the massive debts King Matthias II owed the family. The evidence against Elizabeth Bathory is like a braided rope. One strand is the sheer volume of hearsay and folklore, which is weak on its own. However, it is tightly wound around with two other much stronger strands: the consistent graphic confessions of those who helped her, and the documented first-hand accounts of the nobles and stewards who lived in her shadow. Together, these strands created a weight of evidence that the legal system of her time found impossible to ignore. Today, The Blood Countess is a fragmented narrative where historical facts are often overshadowed by centuries of fictional embellishment. The most famous detail, her bathing in blood, did not appear in any contemporary evidence. It was just published in 1729, over 100 years after her death, by a Jesuit scholar using sensationalized oral folklore. Bathory is now ingrained in society as the archetypal female vampire, serving as a Guinness World Record-holding serial killer and an inspiration for films, metal bands, and video games. Modern scholars often reframe her as a victim of a show trial or a religious and political conspiracy aimed to erasing her identity. Some radical theories even suggest that she was a healer or a religious subversive whose torture methods were actually misinterpreted medical procedures and clandestine activities. If Bathory existed today, or as her case is interpreted now, it serves as a powerful cultural mirror regarding how society views women, justice, and truth. Contemporary feminist analysis use Bathory's story to parallel the destruction of powerful women in modern society, comparing her plight to figures like Anita Hill or Christine Blasey Ford, where strong women speaking their truths are met with doubt and institutional silencing. In her home region of Slovakia, the legend has been commercialized for economic survival. The village of Choctawsach now thrives on Bathoriana selling, or Bathory blood, wine, and wooden statues of the Countess to millions of tourists. The case highlights the modern struggle with refracted narratives, where accuracy is impossible and the truth, whatever narrative society chooses to create and repeat. Bathory's story is like a multi-generational game of telephone. In 1610, the message was a legal, whispered warning about a powerful noblewoman who had crossed the wrong political lines. But by the 18th century, that whisper became a shouted Gothic horror story. Today, that story has been digitally remixed and auto-tuned, used simultaneously as a terrifying bedtime story, a tourist attraction, and a political manifesto, with the original speaker's voice lost forever. Elizabeth Bathory remains one of history's most polarizing figures, a woman whose true identity is buried under layers of political convenience, legal maneuvering, and folklore oppression. While the Blood Countess legend paints a terrifying picture of a vampiric monster, contemporary research suggests her downfall was likely a calculated political move. Whether she was a prolific serial killer or an inconvenient wealthy widow caught in a patriarchal trap, her story remains a chilling reflection of the darker aspects of human nature and power. Bathory has moved beyond history to become a globalized supernatural icon. Yet, beneath the sensationalism, recent scholarship reveals a diligent and competent administrator who navigated the treacherous waters of the 17th century nobility until her identity was erased by those who feared her influence. In the end, the search for the true Elizabeth Bathory highlights our own struggles with justice, gender, and the fragility of truth. Her life is a patchwork of research where accuracy is often sacrificed for the sake of a compelling villain story. Perhaps the most haunting legacy she leaves behind is not the number of her victims, but the ease with which society brands powerful women as monsters to justify their destruction. If your curiosity has brought you this far, and to the end of our controversial and fantastical episode, do consider following and subscribing and leaving a 5-star rating. It really helps me create these audio experiences just for you. I'm truly honored to finally scratch my nerdy itch and share it all with you, so I hope that you enjoyed. This has been CC Evan Cruz with Common Ground, where everyone can find something that we agree and relate to together. Have a great morning, day, or night, wherever you are, my darlings, and I will see you again soon. Ciao.